What 80s song would you use instead of Take On Me to accentuate the themes? Or do you want
I
to jump right
actually
into it?
kind of like Take on Me, because she's going through a lot.
I would have done Just a Friend by Biz Markie.
I don't know. I feel like
I
Take on Me is more reminiscent of her relationship with Joel and like what she's going through than.
I have always felt like Take on Me just has a weird vibe, and even in the game, I never really felt like it fit. Just because
All right.
Take on Me feels like kind of a, to me, the actual like 80s song feels a little goofy, and I like it. It's a good song, but
Okay.
like the I think the lyrics and the instrumental are like incongruent in a way that doesn't work for me. And so to take that into the serious moment in this game and show now has never really fit for me, to be honest.
So what you're saying is that it should have been Eye of the Tiger.
I have the tiger.
In the fight.
I think Future Days fits perfectly. I'm glad that they included that, even though in this universe it technically doesn't exist because the apocalypse started like 5 years before that song came out.
It's
That is
perfect.
true. Yeah, but like they kind of just hand wave it and allow it in.
Well, Craig
Uh,
Mazin, we'll get into it. Craig
oh,
Mazin,
okay.
bad idea. Craig wanted to use a different song.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, are we do we so I guess that could be that is an interesting point. Emma, do you have any interesting 80s song that could be the quote unquote the kind of the theme song? Not the theme song, but like a relevant thematically relevant song from the 80s for this?
Um, I.
Maneater.
It's a man eater. Oh, oh.
It would have to have kind of a somber tone,
Yeah. I don't
but
know.
It could be a Weird
I
Al song.
hesitate.
I mean maybe so I guess maybe like in that
Something
way
I can
maybe it
never
does.
have. 9 Inch Nails. I don't know.
Okay.
In that way maybe it does kind of fit because it's like the lyrics are somber, but it's
Yeah.
not
Mhm.
like that sad of a song because it is kind of goofy in my opinion. I don't know if
I,
everybody else thinks that,
I
but
know it's over. The Smiths. Mhm.
Okay. Interesting choices.
Yeah.
Well,
I genuinely I don't know.
maybe they can include it in season 3.
Asleep. The Smiths. That's kind of cool.
Okay.
I don't know. Abby does not seem like a
Well,
The Smiths person to me.
Abby.
Yeah.
But who plays
well,
Take Me On? Isn't that? Oh, we're just
take
talking like overall. Overall. Okay.
Yeah.
yeah. Well,
Well,
I
and
feel
I mean, well, yeah, we could go ahead, Justin.
yeah, okay. Well, welcome to Not Just Any Book Club, a interesting episode about The Last of Us season 2 or part 2, depending on who you ask. If you ask me, it's just part 2 cuz I have not watched the show.
Part 2, part
All
1
of the show.
of so many,
Part
however many
A.
seasons. Yeah. Part 2.33 possibly. Yeah, this game series is controversial, and I mean we did an episode on season 1, and because I love both the games. Justin is mediocre, middling on the second one, but likes the first one.
Yes, I do.
And so, you know,
And I've
I
never
th-
played the games at all, but I've
yeah,
seen it.
You have an
we
entire
were
spectrum over here.
pleasantly surprised with the first season, and I mean, I'm considering I actually love both the games. I'm a little disappointed in season 2. We'll get into that. Um, that's my initial reaction. I guess I can turn that over to you guys if you want to talk about your initial reaction or
I feel
expectation.
I feel you're gonna be pleasantly surprised by my takes from the little phone conversations we've had throughout the season. Um, like from what I've
Mhm.
heard from you versus kind of what I felt like in those moments. Um, I feel like we might have some similar opinions. and what's occurred, even though I've never played the game, and I don't know the future that is held for any of these characters.
Yeah.
So
I've purposely distanced myself from most online discourse, really. But from what I've heard, again, I mean, I like the second part. I don't love it as much as other people, but I definitely don't hate it as much as other people. But some of the changes that I've been hearing, have been baffling,
Yeah.
definitely bad for the worse.
Yeah. And it's not just story changes. Some of the writing is strange. So here's what I thought we could do. I thought we could break it up a little bit. Focus on groups of episodes. We'll start with basically Jackson, right? Episode 1, 2, 3. And then 4, 5 for Seattle. And then we'll talk about some Joel flashbacks, and then we'll talk about the finale.
This will be all the information to me.
And yeah, well, right, you'll be involved in the comparison to the game situation, but
Okay.
so episodes 1, 2, and 3, we kind of open on Jackson. Ellie and Joel have come back to Jackson following their adventure in season 1. Both in the game and in the show, there's something going on between Ellie and Joel. We're not sure exactly what it is. They're fighting. There's some sort of an altercation at a town event that leads to some sour feelings the night before sort of everything kicks off. It's getting towards the end of winter. Things are starting to thaw out, and a bunch of infected get thawed out of the ice, leading to this massive attack in the show, as an addition, on Jackson. Meanwhile, Ellie is on patrol out with a new character, Jesse. And Tommy and Joel have headed out early in the morning. There's all these infected out. Everything's kind of crazy. And Tommy and Dina. I'm thinking of the game. In the game, it's Tommy and Joel. Tommy and Dina in the show. Tommy and Dina save a brand new character who we've just met, named Abby.
wait, you mean Joel and Dina?
Yes. Did I say Tommy and Dina? Did I
Yeah.
say okay? Yeah, Joel and Dina. I'm getting mixed up on this part because
Tommy
of the
wasn't
games.
there.
Yeah, Tommy is trying
Yeah.
to save Jackson from the big thing, which we'll talk about that because it's kind of a
Yeah.
big change from the game. As the town is finally defended after a long action sequence, spoilers, I guess. Ellie arrives just in time to see Abby and her friends turn on and kill Joel in it was a very shocking moment.
This was
and
my season finale.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the differences.
Shocking moment. Okay,
We'll talk
I
about the
was
differences.
sobbing.
Episode 3 mostly focuses on some grief, trying to plan and put together a team to go after this group that they think is in Seattle or from Seattle. And that's the first 3 episodes. That's the section with Jackson. Ellie and Dina set off to Seattle, not able to get a team together, not able to get the town to give up resources to send a group to Seattle. I was hopeful at this point in the season. There were some things I didn't like. We'll talk about a big one. Some things I really didn't like. But I was willing to give it sort of the benefit of the doubt at this point and just see what happened. I would say the biggest change that we see here is they tell you in the show what Abby's intentions are. That Abby is here to kill Joel because he killed her dad. Okay, they tell us that basically right at the beginning
Right off the bat,
in episode
immediate.
1.
The cold open, I think.
Yeah,
Which for me, I
they
had nothing to compare it to.
they show us this random to a new viewer. They show us this random group of characters who we don't know, and they talk about this bad shit that happened to them. This guy came in, he killed and we find out it's Joel, and that part was baffling to me, not just because they said what happened, like why Abby was coming to get Joel, but also because who outside of that reveal, this scene goes on for way too long. Who cares about these people? The only thing that matters to anyone is what they're going to do. And we have this long, not super long, but longer sequence with them just like talking about stuff. Like it's doesn't make any sense to me.
I will say that I had the game spoiled to me before I played it, so this change didn't register with me. I know that Pierce is very adamant about the thing that defines The Last of Us Part 2 about perspective and the theme of just like miscommunicate, not being able to communicate what happens and just your perspective. So overall, I didn't mind this change, even though that may be a little bit controversial or very controversial.
I
Yeah, go ahead, Emma.
Sorry, I feel like a relatively unique take on someone who hasn't played the game at all, right?
Hmm.
So I believe that this change was probably made for the impatient watchers who've never played the game, who they're not going to know, that they might want to know what's going on off the bat. It gives them all the information, all that.
Hmm.
I, however, am someone who likes the build up in my shows. So, like, I don't mind the lore episodes, like, kind of here and there, dropping it here and there. So, it happening so quick. Granted, I was a little spoiled. I knew Joel was going to die. I just didn't know when. Nothing
Wow.
could have prepared me for it happening in the very second episode.
Yeah.
That is what happened for me as the game was coming out. I knew
Mhm.
that he was going to die, and I vaguely knew what was going to happen, but I did not know that it was going to be in the first like 2 hours of the game.
Yeah. It's weird, and we had a phone call shortly after this episode, you and me, Pierce. It's weird because for me, I would have preferred it the way it happened in the game. I think it would have been
Interesting.
nicer to have that build up, and you're growing with Joel this whole time. You're getting this attachment, so it rips you to shreds when you find it out what happens and it occurs. For me, I mean, I was sobbing either way. I mean, it was
Effective.
heartbreaking, and honestly, Abby gets whatever she deserves. That's my own personal thing. But I think we talked about this as you're playing the second game, right? The perspective is changing, and you're supposed to like you shouldn't hate Abby this whole time because you're learning her perspective, but you still kind of do. In the show, you just hate Abby. You find out what happens. She kills Joel, and you don't grow any attachment to Abby whatsoever. You're like, oh, F you, man. Like, you just killed one of my favorite characters. All your rage is there, right? And that's kind of it. I feel like you don't get a lot of that. Like, we're going to talk about the perspective of it all from Ellie to Abby, when you just find out off the bat. You don't get to feel what she's feeling inside. You're like, okay, Joel killed your dad. Okay.
Yeah. I knew we were going to spend some time on this because of course. But
Yeah.
I sort of feel that it is cowardly what they've done. with Joel's death. That in the game, it is an exceptionally brave choice to kill off the character everyone likes, to put you in the shoes of Ellie, in that we're going to start a new adventure with these characters. Possibly we're going to see more of them. I'm excited to get started. And then he's gone immediately. You are thrown in the shoes of Ellie. And I even think the death scene itself in the game is done better. It feels numbing, in like there's you can feel Ellie's rage in the game, and there's a numbness to it. There's a ringing that they put on over everything. And the whole time, it felt like a really exceptionally brave way, and I think a really successful way, almost a too successful way, of getting you into the shoes of an enraged Ellie. And we could talk about rage in the show and the lack thereof, I guess.
You have
But
very small moments of it where you're like, yes,
Yeah.
this is what I wanted.
but um but yeah, I think it was exceptionally successful in getting the people who played the game first to feel angry, almost too successful, and that's just not here. I think the tone, the plot, the themes call for anger, and yes, it's still sad, and I think it's still a really well done moment. And everyone I've talked to who's never played the game says they were still affected by it, but I think that everything around it, from revealing why Abby did it to the actual choices, the differences between the scene in the game to the scene in the show, I think it it still affects people, but I think it just makes for a worse story, a less meaningful experience.
Mm-hmm. And this is where I think I agree with you. I haven't played the game. I'm going solely based off of what you are saying. And as I stated, I was sobbing, when it happened, and I still feel affected by it, especially, in those flashback episodes. However, I think it would have been more effective storyline wise if you had that build up and it took you a little longer to get there. I think also with Joel's death, I don't know how it's portrayed out in the game, but you get sassy Joel, like, just get on with it already. I don't care about your speech, because he knows what he's done, and obviously she's talking it out to her is not going to fix what's going on, and he accepts that.
That's the thing,
She's
that line is actually from the game, but he says it before she starts monologuing in the game. In the show, he lets her monologue and then he says, get it over with or whatever. It doesn't hit
And
the same as, like, because
I
in
can
the game
imagine.
it's literally, she goes like, don't you recognize us? Like, can't you tell who we are? And he looks around, he realizes, like, I've wronged too many people. And he goes, just say whatever speech you've got and get this over with.
Yeah. Which gives
And-
more of like, okay, Joel, snaps to you. And then it's also, he says it and then she monologues anyway. And I think it shows like kind of where her head is at. And then with that, like, she starts the beat down and everything. But it's like by the time that Ellie gets there, he's already beat. And you're shocked because you're like, oh, whoa, like it went pretty far. And I don't know how brutal they can get. They get pretty brutal, but and I don't know if it kind of is like that in the game as well. Like she starts beating him, and then all of a sudden he's like beat to a pulp, and you don't
It's
see a
very
lot of it.
similar. It's very
Yeah.
similar, but you play
Okay.
Ellie searching for Joel, so there's some more time there
Yeah.
that it's happening.
In the show, you have that anticipation being built. You're like, just get there, please, Ellie. Just get there faster, please. And so, when she gets there and you see it, in my opinion, felt less rageful from Ellie and more just really sad. And I think maybe they were trying to do that tonal shift because maybe they already were kind of planning out Ellie being less rageful throughout the rest of this season, except for our small moments. Because if anything, she just seems a little bit more depressed. And then you have Dina talking her into to continue going on and like to continue to find Abby. Whereas from what I know from you, Ellie's supposed to be like so angry, like she doesn't even care about anybody else except for getting there. I mean, I don't know, but it did kind of feel like maybe she was more hesitant about it in some moments. Whereas I feel like, I mean, if it were me and that were my father figure, I'd probably be raging out the entire time.
The moment that she shares with Tommy in episode 3, it takes place in a different time in the game. Like I think it's the night after instead of like a day later or whatever. But she sort of says, I think she says in both something along the lines of, you know, if it were you or me, Joel would be halfway to Seattle by now. And in the show, Tommy says, "No, don't tell me what my brother would do." But in the game, he seems to be much more like unsure. And I think they were playing it that way because there is another change where Tommy in the game, Tommy leaves first. He knows that that Ellie is going to leave. And
Really?
he says, "Give me a day to get some stuff together." And then he leaves that night before she can to go to Seattle. Yeah.
That changes some stuff too, because it feels less like, ugh, now we have to go after Ellie. Now it's like, I'm a get
Well,
a head
yeah,
start on
it's
this.
also how she gets past Marie in the game because Marie is like, "You can take your horse because now you have to go keep my stupid husband alive."
Yeah.
Basically, she's like, "Go save my stupid husband and get out of here."
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah, instead of them sneaking away and getting help from the homophobic old guy. Um, before we move on to Seattle, and I'll ask you guys if you have anything you want to add or talk about before we do that as well. There's one thing that I wanted to bring up, which is that the Joel, at least in episode 1, does not of this season does not feel like the Joel of the game.
Yeah.
And the way that I would like to point that out is something that I actually saw somewhere else online. But I completely agree with it. Joel in The Last of Us Part 2 is a changed man. He's more trusting. He's softer. He's living in a community. He's a different person from Part 1. But he's still Joel Miller, right? Like he's still the Texan gruff middle-aged man who doesn't like to talk about his feelings, and if you bring it up, he's going to push away. He's going to stop that moment in its tracks and you know, there's a great scene from season 1 that shows that where they're talking about his daughter for the first time in that bedroom after they get to Jackson. And so he's softer, but that doesn't make him the kind of guy who's going to go to therapy and say things like, "I'm not responsible for other people's reactions." We all
Yeah.
know a gruff older man who doesn't like to talk about his feelings, and like
He's not going to therapy,
that's a
man.
guy that everybody knows. Everybody knows that guy.
As someone from Texas, they're in my family.
Like they exist in real life. He's supposed to be that kind of guy, and he's not. even if he's,
Mhm.
I do think he's supposed to be softer, but he's not supposed to be
It's an
that much
overcorrection.
It
softer.
was a full
Yeah,
180
Yeah.
right.
of character.
Yeah. I mean, I would kind of argue that it was kind of like that from the show. I kind of like to separate it from the show from the game because Pedro
Mm.
Pascal does play him a little bit nicer. In
I
season one.
agree. I agree.
Yeah.
There's one moment in season 1 that shows that this is possible,
Mhm.
where he talks to Tommy and he like cries or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but I still think that he's supposed to be this like super gruff, and you see that we'll get to it in the flashback episode where we see
Mhm.
Joel as a teenager. We see his
Mhm.
upbringing, that the rough upbringing. Um, I think he's still supposed to be that guy from the
Mhm.
game, and this is not that guy.
Yeah. I
Hmm.
think yeah, you have those soft moments in season 1 where you can see like how much he does start to care about Ellie in the second season. Even when you do the flashback episode of when they first got to Jackson and through everything, it didn't even feel like it was a gradual shift to the softness that, the now Joel is. It felt very like he gets to Jackson, he's like, "Oh, I'm safe now. Everything's going to be fine." And now he's like doting dad. It
I
it
sort
it
of I sort of disagree with that on the point that the flashbacks are supposed to be like her best memories of him, and
yeah,
he does
true.
kind of
That's a good point.
revert back into being tough. This is a criticism I saw, especially when he finds a girl in her room.
That
Which
Huh.
it
took me
was
out. I was
weird.
like,
It was weird.
"Joel,"
That was
especially
not
if
a
you're
that was and that's the other thing. That's not this version of Joel. Like
yeah.
that's not this guy. So
No,
like he's
not
either
at
super
all.
soft therapy brain Joel, or he's super gruff conservative Texan
Yeah.
who has some issues with gay people that he's working through.
Which
He can't I don't
doesn't
think he can be both. Like I
you
don't
can't be
think
both.
that's
And
the
the
same
way
person.
part of me is like, okay, he lashed out because it was like everything happened at once. Like, oh, now it's bad teenager time, right? The other part of me is like, that wouldn't have come out of this Joel's mouth. That would not have been something he was worried about. He would have been like, and now you have someone in your room. It wouldn't have been now you have a girl there,
Well, it was the now you're experimenting with girls or whatever you
Yes.
said. That was
Oh.
That
like,
would have been like,
yeah.
oh, so now you're being sexually active, if anything. It's not going to be an experimenting with girls type of comment. Um, because then, later in this is probably, he punches our lovely homophobe, or like shoves him or whatever. Um, that's like, okay, maybe it's like his redemption from it. But Joel, like, you're in a zombie apocalypse. You don't care
Yeah.
about this stuff, especially with the person you now see as like your daughter, sort of
Yeah.
deal.
Hmm.
Mm,
This is completely unfamiliar to me. I think we ventured off
Yeah,
into
that's
stuff I haven't seen. Yeah.
not in
Yeah.
the game. So yeah, we ventured
Yeah.
off. We went into the flashback
Yeah.
episode. One thing from the flashback
sorry,
episode.
yeah,
All
I
right.
Yeah.
like
Is
jumped
Yeah.
there
ahead.
is there anything else we want to talk about from the Jackson episodes?
Mm,
Mm, I mean, I like
I
season
will
two,
say,
but episode
Abby.
two. Sorry.
Sorry, I will say Abby pissed me off a little more when Joel saves her fucking life,
Hmm.
and
Yeah, that
That's
happens
the.
exactly like that in the
yeah,
game.
like
Even
Yeah.
Joel
the
saves
yeah.
her life, and the only thing he's worried about is Dina safe? I appreciate your help. I need to get to Jackson.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And that fuels
Yeah.
more of your rage towards Abby. You're like, are you kidding me? Are you
Yeah.
kidding me?
Even
It would
the
have been
way
nicer.
he saves her life is ripped straight out of the game. Crawling
Yeah.
under that chain link fence. That
So
was the
that
exact same scene.
so I
I was
really do
thrilled.
appreciate that and knowing that it was taken out of the game. Only difference here is that like you didn't have a build up to this. It
Yeah.
just happens. Um which I would have liked if it were more similar to a game, I think.
Hmm.
Um but yeah, I think that's Jackson.
Justin, do you have any comments or concerns before we veer into
I
episodes that you have not seen at
Yeah, no,
all?
you guys are just gonna relay it all to me. I mean, episode 2 is my series finale for now. I mean, I plan on returning the show. I just got hella busy, but at the same time, it's fun experiencing the show with the story again through the comments that you guys are making because I'm like, I don't know what's
Living
going on.
vicariously.
Yeah.
Vicariously is the word for it. I mean, I know that we can quibble about the direction that episode 2 may have made with decisions, but overall, I enjoyed it. I thought it was justified. I mean, with the emotions that it brought to me, that it intended to make, I felt. I was
Yes.
thrilled. So,
Yeah. And that's sort of like I much prefer the game's version,
mhm.
but and I guess this is something that I should have said right at the outset. I'm not looking for a one-to-one
Yeah.
recreation. I'm
Mhm.
looking for the emotional core to
Hmm.
remain the same.
Yeah.
Um
Like season
and
1
in
diverged a lot.
this case, in episode 2, I would say from the people I've talked to who didn't play the game, they felt a lot of the same emotions. It achieved what it sets out to do.
Hmm.
Um, I just think it's done better in the
Hmm.
game, and I think if you make too many of those decisions where you veer away from the way the game does it, and it's like, okay, well, this was better, and this was better, and this was better, you're sort of
Hmm.
setting yourself up for failure. Although I
Mhm.
think there are other reasons that this maybe
Yeah.
was not as good. And
Like
we'll talk
I
about
Hmm.
that,
I
especially
felt
in Seattle.
I felt all those, really raw and intense emotions with that. But I think it would have I mean, I don't think it changed any like emotions for me, but it would have been nice to find out Abby's reasoning maybe later on
Hmm.
because I know, like you said in the game, the perspective shifts that you get.
Yeah. It forces empathy
And
onto you
yeah, it
by
forces you to
experience.
feel some sort of empathy, but then this happens, you're like, I feel like all of this has to go
Yeah.
out the window.
Hmm.
So here's what I will say. I kind of avoided saying it for a second because we hadn't
Hmm.
really started, and I want to get into it.
Mhm.
Um, you've heard me go on and on about perspective. Uh, we haven't gotten to the point, or well, we
Mm.
just barely got to the point right at the end of season 2, where in the game the perspective fully shifts.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say this unless they hadn't already announced it.
Yeah.
They did at the end. If you watch the like behind the scenes after the finale, season 3 is going to be entirely about Abby, pretty much like
Hmm.
90% of it. And
Because
so
it's
this is where the perspective shifts. And what I
Mhm.
will say is that in the game you don't get really any information about Abby until that point, until the point that
Okay.
we're at now in the show.
Yeah.
So
You
I
get
thought in the
almost
game
nothing.
so I thought in the game you go back and forth from playing as Ellie versus playing it as Abby.
Yeah.
You do jump back to Ellie eventually,
Okay.
but no, it's you get probably about the first half of the game is all Ellie,
Mm.
and then the next like 40% is all Abby, and the
Mhm.
last like 5 or 10% is
Like the
Ellie
epilogue,
again.
I guess.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
sort of an epilogue. Um, I don't know. They keep saying they're going to do 2 more seasons. I don't see how you get 2 more seasons out of this, but
A really
Maybe
long
like a
that's
shorter
epilogue.
season of what that after
A
Abby
this
movie.
season
already was too
was.
short. This already was
It
too
was
short.
so short. I was like,
Uh,
the season finale already?
season like 7 the last season was 9 episodes, and the first game is a much less complicated story. You
Yeah.
like it's crazy that HBO was like, yeah, 7 50-minute episodes, get her done. Go for it.
I hate the new sorry, this is a little off track, but I hate this new it's like it's not a limited series. This
Mhm.
is like a full out series. I'm so tired of everybody making like the 6 to 10 episodes
Oh,
hour long. I'm like bring back my like
yearly
long
television.
seasons. Like
I, I'm fine with 6 to 10 episodes hour long, but you can't make us wait 2+ years between seasons for
for
that.
7 episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
Yeah.
and
for
with these
even 10
7 episodes,
episodes.
you don't even get like I don't know, it just felt so quick to me. I was like
Mhm.
and Abby's here now. And I was like, I feel like there should have been a lot more.
Yeah. I mean, that's even something we said during season 1 where it's like, wow, we're
Yeah.
here already.
It was definitely
So
quick in season 1, but the story is much simpler.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so it felt like I think Justin has soured on season 1 more than I have.
Mhm.
Although my opinion, I didn't think it was a masterpiece or anything to begin with. Um,
Yeah.
but season 1, like the story is much simpler. It's about love, and so we can,
Yeah.
we
Mhm.
can do X amount of episodes, um, and actually do the story, at least do it
Mhm.
enough justice. This is a complicated story. It's much more complex than
Mhm.
part 1. And so I don't understand why they thought that this was enough.
Yeah.
It's also a
Especially
really popular show. It's like more popular than I would have even thought that it was going to be.
it's
Mm.
it's also definitely like you add in so many new characters here. Like we
Yeah.
get now a whole glimpse into this like secondary war that's going on. And you also need to focus on Ellie's story to getting where she's at.
Mhm.
And you're like, there's a lot going on here.
And so
You
we'll
are
talk
not
about
giving us
the
enough
yeah.
episodes. Yeah,
Let's
I'm
let's
just
Mhm.
go
saying
to
in general,
Yeah.
there's a lot going on.
I want to go to
7 episodes.
Seattle because of something you mentioned. So
Yes.
we'll start day 1 and day 2 in Seattle. It's the next 2
Mhm.
episodes because we can only do 1 episode per day in Seattle, right? Like it
Yeah.
most insane thing ever. Um so day 1 in Seattle, they get there, things are pretty calm. We get Take on Me, we get a lot of Ellie and Dina love story basically.
Be a
Uh
dad.
yeah.
Sorry.
There's some action towards the end.
Mhm.
Um and then we get the and then we get the whole oh god. Dina's pregnant. I'm gonna be a dad scene. We'll talk about that, I guess.
That took
Oh.
me out. Like why
Yeah.
am I laughing?
The
You know?
next and then episode 5, day 2 in Seattle, we get Ellie and Dina setting off to try and find Nora. I think they heard it's similar to the game hear on the radio that Nora's supposed to be at the hospital or something. I
Was
actually
it
wasn't
even Nora, actually? I'm pretty
I
sure she just went and she just knew. I mean,
That
she
was the
found
thing.
out,
Like
but
I listen. You might tell me that I'm wrong. I gave it the benefit of the doubt and assumed that it was like the game where they heard on the radio
yeah.
that one of the people they're tracking down is supposed to be there, and I
That
just missed it. That's what I assumed when
that's what I
I was
think.
like,
I think they said this actually, I think it was that's where Abby is. I'm pretty sure she was going there because what
the
she thought
fact
was
that
that's where
we're
Abby's
not
gonna be.
clear on what happened is bad, regardless of if they actually had a reason to go there or
Mhm.
not. The
Especially since like someone just Dina gets injured and she sees it and she's like hospital now because that's I pretty sure where they're supposed to be.
yeah. Um, it is, it is in. Uh, this episode is kind of insane because I'm supposed to just be doing like a generic summary, basically. But
Yeah.
what I will say about this episode is the first half, I was like, this sucks. The dialogue is terrible. They're doing a love story. Like
It did seem very out of character for it to be like love story based. I
the
was like,
dialogue was so bad in the first half of this episode, and then the second half is very action packed. And there's a tonal shift because
mm,
Ellie finds Nora at the hospital, and we get the Ellie Nora torture scene, which is actually in the game.
this
Um,
is where I felt like this is what Ellie was supposed to be feeling this whole time.
right, yes, I agree. But the problem that I had is when Ellie tortures Nora, when that happens in the
Mhm.
game, her downfall has been steady. Like she's been raging out the whole
Mhm.
time. There's some soft moments in day one with Dina when things are quiet, but as she starts tracking these people down, and you for I think the first two, seeing that Tommy actually beat them there,
Yeah.
she starts tracking these people down. They kill untold amount of people, which you know you can talk about.
In the
No,
show
in
feels
the
like
games,
none of. Yeah, no, I'm
yeah,
saying like in the show doesn't even you don't get that.
yeah. There's an argument to be made about like games
Gameplay and story
stories,
segregation.
yeah, gameplay and story segregation, and how many people did she actually kill. Like it
Mhm.
probably, if you wanted to do like the canon
Mhm.
death count or whatever, it's probably lower than the amount of people you kill during
Yeah.
gameplay. But
Yeah.
she kills like 4 people in this season of the show. It's not enough. It's not
And
enough.
already she kills 4 people and then in the end she's like super sad about it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah, okay. With kind of what happened with the last ones, okay, I get it. You
Yeah.
would be sad about that.
And we'll talk about
However,
that. But
the
yeah.
Mhm.
shift that happens, granted, cinematography, like practical effects, this was beautiful. The CGI,
Yeah.
it was gorgeous. You get down to that level with all the spores, and this is where she's going to, you know,
That HBO money.
beat down Nora. Great, wonderfully done visually. She gets to the hospital, and it's like you said in the game, you're saying like she has this gradual like shift. For
Mhm.
the show, for me, it was, and it's not like it took me off guard or anything. I was still immersed in it, but it was like you have these sweet moments. Dina convinces her to keep going on this journey, and like then she sees Nora, and it's like everything changed. Like she sees Nora, and she's like, "Oh,
Oh.
now I remember why I'm doing this,"
Yeah.
and then she kind of goes a little crazy, and with everything in
Wow.
Nora, and you have this red lighting, and you're like, "This is the rage. This is the
Yeah.
rage that I wanted."
Well, and
Um,
and it comes, speaking of that gradual decline, and speaking of the other main thing I think that we need to talk about, um when Dina reveals that she's pregnant in the game, Ellie goes, "Why didn't you tell me before now?" And Dina goes, "I didn't want to be a burden." And Ellie says, "You are a burden." And
Whoa.
they have this fight in the game, this argument, and you see who Ellie is becoming in her
mhm.
pursuit of revenge. But in the show, you get
It's so different.
this very happy moment. This like, "Oh my god, you're going to have a baby?"
Yeah,
They
she's like,
barely
I
talk
didn't.
she's
about
so
Jesse,
excited.
by the way. She's
Yeah,
so excited.
she is like, it's like the best news of her life, and it's as if everything goes out the window for her. It's as if Joel didn't even exist in this
Yeah.
moment.
Wow.
Like you
And
Okay,
don't
I didn't know they
have
also
would change that.
and
no.
also
It's so
they
different.
they barely mention Jesse. I was
Yeah,
laughing not even because of her reaction, but because they were like, "Oh, this is great. We're gonna be parents. You're gonna have a baby. I'm gonna be a
yeah.
dad." And then they give Jesse this like tiny mention
They're
right at the
like,
end of the
they're
scene.
like,
Oh,
well,
and
I guess
also
we're all gonna have to
Jesse, I
co-parent. She's like, well, I
guess.
guess we're co-parenting. But the biggest thing that it took me out, Allie goes, I'm gonna be a dad. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what? Are you talking about? It's like,
Yeah.
focus up, lock in, man. Like, I'm like, where's the rage? Where is this? Joel died in front of me, beat in front of me. I had to watch him
Oh.
die in one of the most brutal ways possible. And now I have to do this. This is something I have to do. Like, it's not even do I want to or not. It's you have to. Dina
Wow.
gets pregnant, and it's like, oh, it's so happy. It's so great. Like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, what? Because we talked about this after this episode as well, Pierce, of like, it's so different in gameplay where she's like, yeah, you're a burden. And in the show,
Jeez.
it's so different, which is
Yeah, that sounds
why
completely different.
I
Yeah.
think that's why when she sees Nora and it clicks in a way for the show, it's like, oh, you have this moment of rush. She's kind of happy. She's like this future, and then she sees Nora, and she's like, all of it's rushing back to her. That is a way that shows will portray these things.
Mhm.
However, with what happened with Joel, with the fact that they told us everything about Abby on the get-go, you're already feeling the rage that it doesn't seem like Ellie's
Mhm.
feeling that. Like, you're
Yeah.
feeling these intense emotions, and you're like, "Allie, why are you super excited about this? Why are you not more focused
This
on why you guys
sounds
are even here?"
like the director kind of took the wrong message with how Bella Ramsey was playing Ellie from the first season. Because I'm assuming
Mhm.
it's like, wow, Ellie's so lively and happy, and then I'm guessing they kind of decided to change that scene completely from what it sounds like. Again, I haven't
They
seen
made
it,
it a
but
love story.
Yeah, the Seattle, the first 2 days of the first day and a half of Seattle feels like a love story.
Mhm.
Um,
And obviously, you get that
yes,
tonal shift, but
I think a lot of
mm,
it comes down to Craig Mazin. Unfortunately, I and
mhm.
and and his direction. I feel like he doesn't understand some things about the game. And I hate to
Ooh.
say that because that's like the cardinal sin of like online discourse about anything. Oh, you just didn't get it. But some
Mhm.
of the things he says, like he wanted to change the song, like I said, um, the Future Days. I mentioned it
Mhm.
Mhm.
earlier, I think, in the intro. He wanted to change that. Um, there all of the things that I don't like about Dina and Ellie's relationship, he talks about in the podcast and the after show, and
Mhm.
he says that these were things that he did. Not that he says that they were things that he did, but that he says he talks about them, and he wrote these episodes, and so it seems like they're ideas that came primarily from him, I should say.
Ugh.
Um, he there's one point where he says, just to give a specific example of something I didn't like, there's a point where he says that Ellie and Dina have this sort of like, Dina is sort of the mature responsible parent role and Ellie is the child, and he has
Ooh.
her playing childish like the entire time he's writing, pretty much, to be honest.
Hmm.
um and that goes back to what you were saying about how Bella Ramsey acted in season one and keeping her acting like a 14-year-old instead of a 19-year-old. Um, but, and then he says, oh, but there's this moment where they switch. That's not, Dina should not be leading this journey in Seattle. Ellie is supposed to be a force or trying to be one.
Hmm.
I've heard Neil Druckmann say something along the lines of like, there are moments in the game where Ellie is trying to be like Joel, but she's not Joel, and so she's
Mhm.
unsuccessful in certain specific moments. Um, but because she's trying to be like Joel, she should be a force. She should be the driving force. Her anger should push us into Seattle and into all these conflicts. And instead, we get these moments where Dina is telling her about how Dina feels, about how Dina was like, oh, we need to go after these people because I got revenge on the guy who raped and killed my family. Um, what? Dina, I didn't see this. This isn't in the show. You're just telling me about your family that like they were seriously harmed, and that's why we have to go after Joel. No, we have to go after Joel because Ellie's pissed off about it, or should be.
Oh,
Feel
sounds like they.
more you feel more emotionally attached to Dina and like her anger about it than you do about Ellie. Ellie's almost like she's putting that on the back burner.
And that's the other thing. It's a lot of tell don't show in this season. They spend a lot of time telling, and you mentioned, Emma, before the moments about the war and the conflict in Seattle between these two groups. In the game, we get very little of that between when we're following Ellie. Ellie's on the war path. She doesn't care about this war between the Seraphites and the wolves. She doesn't care. Like, she knows about
Yeah.
it. She got kind of gets what's going on just from listening to them talk while she's like skulking around.
In the
But
show, you get a weirdly like a lot of information about these background characters and about this other thing that's going on.
it felt like at times they just wanted to put Jeffrey Wright on screen. And I get it. Listen,
Yes.
I love Jeffrey Wright, but like we didn't need it. We didn't need it. It was not important. You could have spent more time fleshing out the Ellie and Dina's journey in what is already a short season.
They took a
Mm.
lot of time explaining those things and like these moments where they're like, we might all die tonight. These are people we just met this season, and it's like, okay, but what about Ellie trying to get her goal?
Yeah. And
And
moments where Dina and Ellie are explaining things to each other that they both kind of already know.
yeah,
Um, you know, these episodes we're talking about, there's a moment where Ellie and Dina see the stalkers and Dina's like, "Oh, well, you already fought one of these, right?" And Ellie's like, "Yeah, but I got bit by it when I beat it." And Dina's like,
Mhm.
"What? No way! You didn't tell me." And she was like, "Well, you didn't know I was immune until recently." And then, okay, what are we gonna do about it? You go this way, you go, I go that. Why are we talking? What are we talking about? There's a zombie right there. There are two of them right there, and
they
there end
could
up
have
being
very
even
easily already
more.
started.
But like, what are we talking about? Why are we chatting while there's zombies around us?
Wow. Huh. Uh, I'm guessing it's just even if you like from the grand scheme of things, the story just isn't there. I feel like even the moment by moment stuff they kind of
Yeah,
flubbed in. So
it's the tone is completely off, and I've said that to basically everyone I've talked to about
yeah.
this. The tone is not right. It
You don't
calls
feel
for it calls for Ellie to be the primary focus, and for her
Mhm.
to be as angry as as the audience is.
Mhm.
Probably more angry.
it
Um,
you feel like you're more angry than Ellie in the show. 100%.
yeah.
And there's some
Mhm.
parts where you almost feel like they don't feel the same sense of urgency that you feel. Like when the stalkers are there, they're having a full-on conversation about it, and then
They're a
at the
full on
end of it,
conversation about things that they don't need to. First of all, they don't need to talk about right now. And
mhm,
second of all, that they both already know in some of the
like you
cases.
said,
Like,
they're
it's
they're
not.
telling, not showing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm guessing there's also some way too much levity, which is just a really dark game and really dark story because like it's relentless in how dark it is, which is kind of the point where it's supposed to feel exhaustive. Is it as bad as like Marvel like quips left and right, or is
Yes.
it just like oh,
Yes. Yep.
geez,
Yes. Especially these
okay,
middle two Seattle episodes. That like day one in Seattle, like literally until the little bit of action you get towards the end, it's like nothing except for lovey dovey quotes at each other. Then that's
ooh,
it. The first half of the next episode is more of the same. I was like cringing. It was bad.
Yeah.
It was
wow,
so bad.
It's kind of weird because, as someone who hasn't played the games, it's not like I knew what to expect, and it's not like I have something to compare it to. So for me to even be like, this is what I was feeling, and Ellie's not even
hmm
feeling the same rage, and that's not my father figure, and
hmm
it's like, this isn't my war that I'm fighting, but it feels like it should be. And you're wanting to fight harder for Ellie in this than
mm,
what's happening. For me to even be like, it felt lovey-dovey, felt a little in those
hmm
moments. I mean, that
That
goes to
that
show a lot about what the show was doing.
that first day in Seattle in the game, there is obviously action because they're trying to keep you
hmm
interested and playing combat, but it is
hmm
calmer than day 2 and day 3. That's kind of the point. They get there and they're not really sure how big the WLF is. They don't see the Seraphites until I think until day 2. They don't even see
mm,
them. They see some of the hangings that they do, I think, but they don't actually see them until day 2. And so, yeah, sure, day 1, calmer episode, right? Focus on the characters. Okay.
hmm
the dialogue can't be this bad. It cannot be this bad when this is the focus of this episode.
Jeez.
It can't. It just can't. Like, it's not. There's a reason why, because I just have IMDb pulled up. That episode, Day One in Seattle, is the lowest rated episode of the season. That's why, because it's you can't focus on characters and then have the dialogue be that bad.
Yeah.
And-
It was like, okay, character focus episode. Love it. Lore for the
Yeah.
plot. But it's, if that's what they're doing, you have to be better, especially for an HBO show that's based off a game that so many people have played.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? I will be, I guess, because season 1 is my only point of reference, I will be a defender of the season 1 of Mall episode, the Left Behind episode, because hot take, I liked it more than the gay episode. The one
The
both
other gay
episodes.
episode. Yeah.
Because the calmness was the point, because you know how it's going to end. There's some tragic irony to it. It's supposed to be played as a tragedy because all this happiness is going to come crashing down, and it's been alluded to the past. I like that episode a lot, actually. It sounds like here, and they weren't quipping all the time. It was because they find this way to escape, and it all comes crumbling down because of how much they built it up, the escaping and everything. From what you're describing, it just sounds like they're just not taking it seriously. So
No.
fun.
Nope. Yeah. All right, let's talk about the last two episodes. Just to keep things rolling. And just because we've been talking for a while already, I'm just gonna roll both of these into one, and we can just go through. But in terms of summarizing, episode 6 is essentially a flashback episode. We get several flashbacks, most of which happen on Ellie's birthdays.
It was emotional
throughout
for me, anyway.
throughout some of the years. Probably my favorite episode of the season, not just because Pedro Pascal is in it, but because it felt like the tone was actually there where it was supposed to be. And also probably relief from episode 4 and 5, which I really did not like. And then we have the finale. After this flashback, we get all these conversations between Joel and Ellie, seeing their conflict in Jackson. We jump back to the present, and we see day 3 in Seattle for
Which
the finale.
felt very fast.
It felt very fast. A lot happens in day 3.
Considering
Day 3
what we
is
just had in the other episodes.
Yeah. Day 3, from what I remember in the game, feels very long because a lot happens.
This happens, it's like one thing after the other
it's very quick.
And it's like, okay, you're getting no pauses to actually feel what's going on.
But to quickly summarize it,
Sorry.
Ellie comes back after the hospital. She finds Jesse and Dina. And Jesse is like, we got to find Tommy, because he and Tommy came out there to rescue them. I guess I didn't talk about Jesse and Tommy showing up in episode 5, but they show up a little bit earlier. And they're like, Jesse's like, we came to help you. Me and Tommy spread out to find you. But in this episode, Jesse tells Ellie, hey, we got to go to the rendezvous point, find Tommy. Tommy's in a sniper shootout like he is in the game. When they get to the rendezvous point, they hear on the radio, and so they set off to go get him, to help him. Ellie finds out while they're traveling there what Nora meant when she mentioned whale and wheel, because she sees the aquarium in the distance. We get this frantic push for Ellie, who is broken away from Jesse, to get to the aquarium late at night in a storm. When she gets there, she does not find Abby. She finds Owen and Mel, just like in the game, and she tries to do Joel and Tommy's favorite torture method, where you get one of them to say something and the other person needs to agree, and it better match. Yeah. And then you kill both of them anyways.
Which, honestly, I kind of don't think she would have killed them both. I think she might have killed one of them. But it seemed like she might not have killed both of these people in this.
In the show, maybe not, but
in the show, that's what it felt like.
But in to me, in this scene, both in the game and in the show, Ellie is trying to be like Joel, and Joel would have killed both of them.
True. It
Mhm.
just
Um,
yeah, I can understand that. It did kind of
Especially because she
seem
didn't know that she was pregnant until after she killed her on
yeah.
accident.
It did kind
Um,
of seem in the show a little bit softer than what Joel might have done.
yeah,
Hmm.
However, I
because
understand like you're trying
Ellie's
to almost build that trust of like you do it and then you do it.
yeah
Don't
because
worry.
Ellie's a little baby in the show.
Yeah.
She couldn't possibly kill both of them. But bad tone. Anyways, so yeah, so she ends up accidentally killing both of them without getting any information, because Owen tries to pull a gun on her. There's this big scene that's new for the show where Mel tries to get her to do a C-section on her to save the baby, and Ellie is crying and unable to do it. And she's so shocked by this that she just sits there until Tommy and Jesse come and get her
Is that
in
how it
the
happens in the game?
aquarium.
Yeah. Well, I don't remember
So
this.
she doesn't plead with her to do the C-section.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she just she does have a coat on, so Ellie doesn't recognize that she's pregnant until she kills her, and that's simply what shocks her. Um,
But is
this is
she as distraught in the game?
from what I don't remember, because in the show it feels like some time passes, like she's there for a while. I don't
Yeah.
remember if that's the case in the game or if Tommy and Jesse show up pretty quickly. Um, but she is shocked and she sort of kneels
Mhm.
down in front of her and cries, and then Tommy comes and carries her off. That's the same. I don't remember if it's like the same
Yeah.
where time
Because
passes.
in the show, it feels as if this happened and
Feels like she's
it
sitting
was
there for a
everything.
while.
Seems like she's sitting there for a while and
Yeah.
that now everything's changed and in
Yeah.
my opinion it kind of felt like she wasn't even gonna go after Ab anymore or had that rage or any of it. It seemed like, oh, this
Yeah.
happened and she's like, well, that was upsetting.
Well, that's also and so then we go back to the theater. Tommy and Jesse bring her back there. Ellie is sort of like they're sort of talking, and Tommy is trying to convince her to go back to Jackson. They're like, we got some of them. They got what was coming to them. He's trying to console her from the killing she'd just done, and also convince her to come back to Jackson. Um, so there's sort of like this. She's still upset about Abby, but she seems willing to just go along with what Jesse and Tommy want. And then uh, Tommy walks into the next room. Jesse and Ellie have sort of a heart to heart, and then you hear a bang, some yelling. Jesse and Ellie break through the door. Jesse is killed instantly, and Ellie ducks into cover. Um, and
Jesse dying that quick. I
yeah,
Yeah.
mean, I didn't know he
that's
was
That's
straight
gonna.
out
high.
of the game. Jesse's like
Yeah.
one of my favorite characters. He didn't ask for
He
this.
he's
He didn't
very.
ask
It's
for
supposed to be.
this.
Yeah.
He has some complexity about him. He
Yeah.
walks out because you just get this heart to heart, and you're like, okay, Jesse, like,
Yeah.
okay, Jesse, yeah. The quickness that this
Yeah.
happens,
It shocked me too.
it took a minute. Like, I wanted to pause the show. I didn't pause it. I was like, I just
Yeah.
got to keep this going. I wanted to eat it all
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
But
It's
it
unceremonious
happens,
for a
and I
reason.
was like,
Jesse is
Yeah.
Jesse
excuse
is
me.
literally like in the show they make him a little bit like in the game he's just like a good dude. Like there's
Yeah.
nothing, he's not like mean to Ellie really. He's just like a very chill guy. In the show they add a little bit of complexity to him that
He
I don't
seems like he almost has the
like
savior
really.
complex, and I
Yeah.
wasn't always the biggest fan of Jesse, if I'm being
He's
honest, until they had
he's
their heart to heart.
yeah, I think in the show they sort of weaken his character and weaken this moment by doing that.
Hmm.
Um
It did still shock me though. Like
Yeah.
finally you
yes.
get this heart to
No,
heart, and
yeah,
I'm
right.
like, okay, Jesse, I do like you.
He's still a good dude, and the reasons he's upset and he's being kind of mean in the show makes sense.
Yes,
Like
yeah.
none of it like it's all
It
fair,
didn't
the
feel
reason
out
why
of
he's
pocket or
mad.
anything.
Right. But but in the game, he's literally just such a chill guy, and then he dies like that for
I
for nothing.
I I
Yeah.
mean, like, he wasn't. I'm still kind of shocked over it. Like the fact that it just happens, and I just like. I mean, I don't even know how to feel. Like
Yeah,
he's dead. And I'm like, what do you mean he's like, I want it to be fake. I want it to be fake so bad. Like I want him to
Yeah.
still be alive. Cause like he's gonna be dead. And like he cares. And
yeah.
he does care. And he was only there to get Ellie.
Yeah.
And
And he's
you know,
mad. He was mad about it, but he was like,
he still cares.
he was mad about it, but he was like, I love Dina, but I don't love Dina like you love Dina, so you can have her basically. Like he was, and then he just gets killed. Yeah,
It
it's
I
it's sad.
oh
It twists the knife. Yeah.
uh
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
hate her more. I hate Abby even more. Like
Well,
it's
just
it's
wait till
reigniting
season
my
3.
flame.
yeah.
It's
Wait till season
Yeah.
three.
reigniting my flame. Like
Yeah.
season 3, I know it's gonna be about her, but like I don't even. Part of me is like, just give me a freaking synopsis. Like I hate her so much. I hate her. I
Well,
hate her. Like
That's part of
I
what's frustrating for me about the idea that they're going to split it into two seasons, the rest of the game,
Mhm.
because like the last part of it is really like it's a finale and then it's an epilogue, and the majority of it is Abby. And so, what are they just going to give us a full season of pretty much just Abby and then expand that finale and epilogue? That doesn't make any sense to me, especially because if we do a fourth season, we're not getting that fourth season for like 3 years at least.
seeing the
yeah.
if they do that, we're not seeing the end until like 2029.
Yeah,
Yeah. Stranger
I'm like,
Things. That came out when I was in high school.
it's
yeah, but
crazy.
like with that, it's kind of crazy because the
Yeah.
kids get older and stuff. But it's not based off of a game with a plot that like
Yeah.
The
people
plot's
That actually has
done.
an ending.
That's the thing. It's
Yeah.
exactly
done.
it's
It's
done.
all
So
like
game
just
the
write it
people who have
and then
played the
film it.
games know what to expect, or they have
Yeah.
expectations, and it's like they know this should not
Hmm.
be brought out to 2 more seasons. If anything, this season should have been a little bit longer, and then you should have
Hmm.
one third final season. If I'm gonna be honest, granted I didn't know how complex the second game was. First season was the first game. I was expecting second season to be the second game, and that was it.
Yeah.
Granted, I
Well,
now know that like things are longer. Probably was gonna need a third
yeah.
season.
The second game is like more than double the length of the first game. Like
Yeah,
it's like very
which I
Yeah.
long.
understand now. So
Yeah.
like when that finale happened, A, too fast, too freaking fast.
I mean, that's what I felt
But
about season
B,
one's finale.
but B, it did also feel like, okay, well now I kind of get it. You need to break it up into two, but everything happens in that season
Hmm.
finale. It's like bam, 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 bam. You don't get a beat. You don't get a break. You're just kind of like everything happens, which makes that very end final scene emotionally charged because everything's
Hmm.
happening. It feels like at once, and then Jesse dies, and you're like, whoa, whoa.
The
Hmm.
thing is, season one, I felt like they were close. I felt like it maybe could have used one or two more episodes to really
Hmm.
like hammer home some points, line up the final episode so it's just the hospital and the trek back to Jackson. I think that would have been good,
Hmm.
rather than giving us the before the hospital and then the hospital in one episode. Like
Hmm.
I think that they were close with season one to
Hmm.
the amount of time that I wanted them to spend on each part. But this season could have used two more episodes at least. At least two more episodes. Two more episodes to even just get it so they don't feel like they have to tell us everything and they can show us most of it.
Hmm.
Like it's
That's exactly why it felt super fast. It's because they were
yeah.
just telling us all the information, and so
Oh.
you're just like, obviously, you're getting everything you need to get, but not the right viewing experience I think you're supposed to get because now everything's being revealed to you, and it feels as if they were just catering towards the impatient viewers and the people that don't know how to read into context and
And
don't
the
know how
people
to
who are on their
understand
phones the whole time. There's
it.
been
Yes.
some news articles recently about how, and I know this isn't Netflix, but I imagine some studio execs are thinking the same thing.
David
Netflix is
Zaslav especially.
apparently, yeah, especially David Zaslav. Netflix is essentially reportedly telling creators to make their dialogue so that people who are on their phone during the movie or show can understand what's going on.
Which, like, as someone with ADHD, sometimes I'm playing a block game. Sometimes I am.
Okay.
Except I play it almost absent-mindedly. Like, I'm
Uh,
watching the show, and I'm not being very good at the game on my phone because I'm watching the show.
well,
It's just something for my hands to do. Granted, I
you
used to do that. Like, I would be like making something maybe, or like doing just something busy for my hands
just
so that I
yeah.
don't get antsy because my body doesn't like staying still for very long. However, I'm still actively watching the show. I do not like it when shows give me all the information up front and I'm not allowed to sit and think. I love it when in a show I have to think about things or I'm still thinking about it afterwards trying to piece things together. This felt very quick, very rushed, and very in your face. Here's what you need to know.
All right, I want to go backwards a little bit because we've been talking about the finale, but for a second, I want to go backwards for a second. I just talk about the flashbacks for a moment, um, especially because this is probably the one episode where I have very few complaints. I have one major one, but very few besides that. Um, I like most of the flashbacks here. I think
Hmm.
that some of them the game does better if they're taken directly from the game. But even then, I think it's like slight. It's not that different, that much better or worse. I like that Joel makes the guitar in this instead of finding it. He makes it for her birthday, like he builds it. Especially because in the game, we know that he's into woodworking, like he has all that stuff in his house. But we also know that he finds the guitar instead of making it. And I think that that's a pretty cool addition. Um, I love the playing of Future Days, of course. Um, we'll see. We'll see. Uh, and I think that the additions are okay or good. Um, the scene where she kind of starts to figure out, oh, he's lying to me, or is more sure of it at least.
Hmm.
Essentially, what the way they do it in the show is that uh, they find Eugene who's been bit and he's begging to go back to say some last words to his wife. Joel doesn't want to let it happen. Ellie makes him promise that they'll take him home. And then as Ellie's going to get the horses, he breaks his promise and shoots him anyways. Um, and she says, "Oh, it's the same face you made when you told me that they um, that you were telling the truth about what happened in Salt Lake." And I think that that's kind of that I don't love that reasoning, but I like the face that you made. To me is not like, oh, that's your lying face. That I don't love that. But the actual like,
It felt
oh,
like his
he's
normal face.
yeah, but like the actual like, oh, he's lying to me about this like life or death thing, and I made him promise and he broke it. That I think holds at least a little bit of water, and so I'm okay with that. My main problem with the episode, aside from all the good things, is that they combine the actual confrontation of that information, like, I know you've been lying to me, tell me what really happened, with the porch scene. And we get the porch scene here much earlier. Um, the porch scene in the game you get as a flashback right at the end.
Yeah, I'm like, wait, the porch
Um,
scene. This is way too early. The
literally
porch
at
scene.
the end of the game.
Really?
After you followed Abby for however long, after you've switched back to Ellie, literally like one of the last things you see in the game
Yeah.
is the porch
That
scene.
kind of crazy. That feels kind of cool. Now I kind of wish that's what happened. That feels, knowing the porch scene now,
So
it's almost like
yeah.
end of everything that just happened.
Yeah.
You actually now understand what those last moments were
Well,
like
Comes
right.
at a
for
pivotal
Yeah.
Joel
moment
and
too.
Ellie.
It comes at an extremely pivotal
Yeah.
moment in the
We
game,
we don't
which
wanna
we don't want to talk about. But what I
Yeah,
will
don't
say,
tell me, don't tell me.
yeah, but what I will say about the actual moment itself is that it's really special because you see why Ellie is so mad, because you see that it's not just that you took her father figure away, it's that they had been fighting for a long time. They weren't talking to each other, and they finally start to reconcile that. And we're finally going to get more memories like the ones we've seen throughout the game and throughout that episode.
And then it was
And it's
ripped away.
ripped away from her. And it's in the same way, again, putting the player in the shoes and the viewer in the shoes of Ellie, in the same way that that's ripped away from us at the beginning when we think we're going to get all these new experiences with Joel and Ellie together. That's torn away in the same
Like,
way.
all you know is they were fighting, and now he's dead, and they don't have any chances anymore.
Yeah.
That's a
Getting the
tragedy.
porch scene, I loved the porch scene. It made me
Well,
tear up. Was
we
very
weren't supposed to get it
emotional
this
for
early.
me.
Yeah.
It
Early
is very
Christmas.
interesting to hear how they put it so early. It's one of the other things. The showrunners did a telling
Well,
and not a showing. They gave you
yeah.
all your information so early, and they're like,
Uh,
okay, yeah, now you have your information, you feel all your feelings, and it's like,
The
yeah.
I
you're taking
imagine
away the build.
they'll show like flashes of it
Hmm.
in at the end, in the moment, that I assuming they do it a similar way. In
Hmm.
the moment towards the end, they'll show flashes of it. But it's not gonna hit the same as a
Yeah.
viewer. Um, the main complaint I have is the combination of those scenes, of that confrontation with the reconciliation. I think it makes sense where they have it in the game, where there's a confrontation, and then once she's actually confronted him about it and he's told her the truth, then some time passes, and then they're able to reconcile. Instead, what we get is she finds out that he's a liar, and so, or that he's willing to break her promises. But she doesn't know for sure, right? She hasn't actually
Mhm.
confronted him about it. And then months pass, and then we get a confrontation and a reconciliation at the same time. And I also think it makes the porch scene clunkier. There's the pacing of the dialogue, because a lot of it is ripped straight out of the game, and now there are these extra lines. It's a little clunkier. And I still think it's a good scene, but it's not paced well
It's
anymore.
a good scene, but I see what you mean by, like, okay, now you get the start of their fight. Like, all the flashbacks are great, but now
Yeah.
they give you this feeling of, well, they're reconciled, like, they're learning to forgive. And it does seem like, oh, it's this fight, it's this terrible fight, and he died. That's so sad. And then it's like, oh, now it's even more sad. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, we could have just stuck with why they were fighting and then kept going. Like, obviously, I didn't know how that game play was. I feel like it kind of would have been really interesting, though, to
Hmm.
experience it the way the players of the
Well,
game
yeah, and
experienced
I don't expect you to agree with me on the pacing thing because you don't have anything to compare it to.
it.
But that's how I felt while I was watching it, because
Hmm.
because it comes at such a pivotal moment. If you hate the game, of course, I don't think it matters because the game
Yeah.
is very controversial. But if you
Mhm.
love the game, I love the porch scene. The porch scene is it comes at a great moment, and it's incredibly well written, and it's incredibly well paced, and it gives the moment, like it flips your perspective on what's been happening the entire time. It changes like what Ellie has been sort of fighting for, what she's been angry about this whole time. And I think it's extremely well placed and well done in the game. And I think that while it's a good scene still, and it still adds to this version of Ellie and this version of the story, I think it's a decision they made that is not as good. And I guess that's the thing, season 1 to season 2. Season 1, I felt like a lot of the decisions they made about things they specifically wanted to change did not change the core. And so I didn't think it was going to make it significantly worse or worse at all. Here, they make decisions, they change the order of things, they do different things, they add stuff. And I think in some cases it changes the core of what's happening and the core of the story, and it makes room for it to be not as good, even outside of all the misgivings with the dialogue and the moment to moment and the tone.
I I remember like seeing this online. I didn't want to get too much into the online discourse where people were theorizing that something like this would happen because a season 3 where it follows Abby all the way through would be a tough sell. So that's why they would quote unquote, spoil the reason why Abby would be the opening. And you give her motivation um, at the expense of it being the under at the expense of the story's defining feature of you sticking with Ellie and then you sticking with Abby. But again, I feel like it is really clunky, and from what you're describing, it is just not missing the point entirely. This could have been a really long season, and I think I even mentioned to you one day where it's like, man, the finale would be really bold if you switch to Abby halfway through the episode and we start off and continue off with Abby because the switch is jarring intentionally. Here, it's an
So
entirely new season.
here's the thing. So I hadn't talked about this yet, but literally at the end of the finale, we get those first moments in this Seattle Seahawks stadium that you get in the game.
Oh, okay.
Take that out. Take that out. Okay? Remove that. Instead, take the reveal of Abby's motivations, put it at the end there. Put her
Oh,
dream
yeah.
at the end there. And then you still get it as a reveal after you've seen everything that Ellie has gone through and before you're going to try and sell a season 3 from Abby's perspective to people.
That
It's
is interesting.
still
You almost honestly, the way the show is, you
it's
almost
mind-numbing.
feel
It's crazy.
you almost
That's
feel
such an
like you don't even
obvious
need an Abby
decision to do.
perspective.
Well,
Like obviously you want an
Well,
Abby's
it's part of the
perspective
point
of
of the
what's
it's part of the point.
well, yeah, like
You got to see the completed
obviously
work
you
before
need
you
it. Of
yeah.
course. Well, obviously you're going to need it especially in the time between. But with you already knowing Abby's motivations for what she did, you're kind of like, all right, well,
So
obviously I'm going to need it. I need to know what's going
yeah.
on. But I also am like, what? Like, besides what
So
she's feeling about the trauma, you know.
So in the game, Abby's motivation is that's what kind of why I say throw Abby's the reveal of her motivation at the end of the finale of
Mm-hmm.
season 2, because in the game that's where it was anyways. It was
Yeah.
literally like we get this moment with Jesse dying, Tommy being shot, and Ellie being sort of pinned down, and them having this confrontation, and then it doesn't fade to black. It snaps, jump cuts to black,
Mm-hmm.
and then it sort of fades into um, Abby's dream about finding her dead father that we get early in this season instead. We get
Yeah.
early season 2. Um, Literally, that's exactly where it is in the game. You still reveal it to people before you're feeding them trailers and selling them a season 3. Like, they have some time to sit with and chew on her motivation before season 3 comes out, before they commit to watching a whole season of Abby. I
Mm-hmm.
think it literally fixes that issue while still keeping the benefits of showing it earlier, because people have time to chew on it. Like with
Yeah.
TV, it is mind blowing some of the decisions they made to change things to me. It is, and I said this
Yeah.
early. I'll say it again. It is cowardly, some of the changes that they made. Like the game made decisions and it stood on them. Love it or hate it, there is brave storytelling to make
Hmm.
you go through that with Ellie's
Hmm.
perspective completely and then swapping it.
I will say I do have that like slight appreciation since I haven't played the game. It's almost a
Hmm.
good thing that I haven't played the game because it didn't ruin, you know, or it didn't taint a lot of the moments of the show. So I think that's kind of a good thing. It's a little bit of a plus if you haven't played the game, you don't have something to compare.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
be
I
so
will
honest.
say I will
You should either play the game or watch a playthrough of the game online.
I'm
It
probably gonna
is
watch a playthrough because I'd have
miles
to get a whole
better.
new gaming system like in order to play it.
Just
But
like look
Or
up like a no commentary playthrough of the game.
cinematic
I
playthrough.
while
Yeah.
I can be appreciative that, I've been able to take in the show without a comparison, just even hearing
Yeah.
comparisons. And also, I have moments where my opinions have been similar to yours, like Pierce, of like those emotions.
Moments.
And yeah, those moments where it's like, if that's how I'm feeling and I haven't even played the game, I can't even
Hmm.
imagine how
Hmm.
you're
It's
feeling.
so frustrating.
Yeah. Pierre, I
Like,
was shocked at you using the word cowardly at the beginning, but now the more you describe it, I'm like, cowardly is definitely apt. Perhaps I would even say just like it's diluting it. It sounds like it's a YA novel at this point.
yeah, that's kind of
That's
it's giving the
yeah.
same feeling of like when I was so into a book, oh, nice YA novel book, and then they skip out these scenes in the movies, and I'm like,
I'm
Uh,
I'm part of the reason I think why I'm so upset about it is because episode 1, 2, and 3, I was again didn't like the change with Abby. There were some things I liked better in the game, but I was willing to give it the benefit of the doubt. I was like, okay, season 1 was good. I'm okay with what's happened in Jackson so far.
I remember I
Let's
really enjoyed
see
it.
let's see what Seattle's like before I decide if I think that this is a good adaptation.
and they
And then we
fumbled
got to
it.
Seattle and everything fell apart. Like the
Mhm.
things that I didn't like were amplified, the things that I did like were gone. Like it just was it's not
Well, they
good.
they took. I mean, who knows if the showrunners actually like played the game, you know? Even if you have Naughty
I
Dog
would
like
be
on set,
willing
kind of like helping. He,
to bet that Craig probably did play it once and
and then
didn't.
decided he wanted to make the changes he wanted to make. Like, yeah, I'm sure there's pressure from, production company, whatever. But the thing is, if you're taking key points of a well-known and well-loved game, they have to be good. They have to be something that, someone who's played the game is always like, oh, I kind of enjoyed that change. You can't make changes based off what you would have wanted to see, preferably when it's something like this. Like the
And I
telling not
also
showing
and
and
I also think that Neil Druckmann, the creator of the game, was probably a little more hands off this season than season
mhm.
1. Um, Maybe in part because he just trusted Craig more after season 1 was like good and successful. But
Which
also, and you can see it in the writing credits because Craig has more writing credits, Neil has less.
mhm.
Um, the the Naughty Dog is currently working on 2 games. We know about one of them. They revealed one of them, and then the other one they just said like we're working on a sequel to another game. And he's also still running the game studio Naughty Dog,
Mhm.
so he's busy. Like I
Right.
really think he was a little bit more hands off with this, and so Craig got less pushback on any changes he wanted to make. He's
Hmm.
probably still got some, but
I kind of wish now obviously they're busy, but the other part of me is like, come on, man. Make the
Yeah.
time. Make the time for something like this because with how this season played out, I still enjoyed it,
That's the
but
thing. Like
there's
I I will talk to people who have not played the game and they'll be like, "Yeah, I've been enjoying it." And I say to them, "I think that it is fine. Like it's definitely
Mhm.
watchable. If it was unwatchable, even though I love the game, I probably wouldn't have come back each week."
Yeah.
But the frustrating thing is that it's a game I love so much that I am happy to share with people who don't really play games, but I'm watching it and I'm watching them get an inferior story, just a much
Yeah.
worse story.
You're pitying them.
Like,
I think I'm gonna do what I've kept doing. I'm not gonna play, or like if I watch a playthrough, I'm gonna stop it before we get to Abby's perspective. I still want to go in with like a fresh
Okay.
eye look of the next season. A, because we can talk about it, but B,
Yeah.
because I like hearing the comparison afterwards from you. I think it is interesting because I get like, this is what I am thinking and what I'm feeling, and it is kind of interesting if I'm having like a similar feeling to what you are when you've played the game and I haven't, you know?
yeah, I'm hoping that they'll take some criticism because like what makes the story work is whether, uh what really makes the story work is sort of Abby's perspective and the lead up to, like,
Mhm.
it's the point. It's the reason why we're here.
Mhm.
Is this perspective switch and seeing Abby's 3 days. And so I hope they take some of the criticism, especially surrounding the dialogue. That's going to be the biggest, like, moment to moment. I need to see something
Mhm.
shift.
Mhm.
Um, and they make season 3 a lot better. And it'll just suck that season 2 was like not very good.
Yeah.
um, and hopefully, the have you guys ever seen the meme of the horse drawing and they're comparing the like
Yeah.
Yes.
seasons of show? The
Mhm.
middle one will be like terrible and the other ones will be
Like the
like
preschool
good.
drawing.
Right. Um,
Mhm.
but hopefully that they take the criticism they're getting and make season 3 a lot better because it's really what makes the story work at all.
Mhm. I'm hoping for a good season 3.
Yeah.
We can only hope.
Yeah. So a bad season 2, but a strong season 3. Just
Mhm.
Hopefully. Hopefully.
like a really terrible sandwich with awesome
Yeah.
bread.
That
Wonder bread.
bread, it's so good. It's so
It's like
delicious.
it's Wonder bread for
So,
sure.
well, that whoa.
Maybe like a nice freshly
Maybe like
made
a
sourdough.
brioche or
Yeah,
something.
brioche, beautifully done sourdough,
We
handmade.
we can get an advertiser on the show about bread or something.
Yeah, Justin wants white bread for his like beautiful sandwich.
Untoasted, no mayo,
No
nothing,
mayo.
just white bread. Floppy white bread.
um all right,
I
anything else?
yeah.
Think I've said my
I
piece.
will
The
I
steam
will
has come out of your ears.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
will hopefully never, well, not never, because I'm gonna watch season 3, and hopefully hopefully I will
Ho-
never be as upset as I was
yeah.
this season.
Hopefully, it
Mhm.
won't be a hate watch.
Yeah,
I mean, by the time season 3 rolls out, I'll probably have seen season 2. I mean, I just got busy with a lot of stuff,
it's
but
pretty short, so even if you
yeah,
don't,
It
it
goes
would be
quick.
pretty easy to catch up. So
yeah, this is not very good. So I'm just gonna. It's gonna be. I think the harder part will be just getting all the willpower to watch each episode, watching it progressively get worse. Except for
I
that
think
one good episode.
what you need to do is just pretend it's not The Last of Us Part 2 and like just laugh at it.
Yeah,
It
which
might
is
make it
probably
better.
where it was good for me that I haven't played the game because I didn't get upset after each episode
hmm
for how it played out.
Well,
So
if you
sucks to be y'all, I guess.
yeah,
Uh,
well, if you don't want to be upset, you can start listening or watching us on YouTube. Subscribe. That will make you even more happy. Or rating us 5 stars, or perhaps giving us a thumbs up, a like on any platform that you listen to. or even follow us on Blue Sky/Twitter at Not Just Any Pod, where we seldom post, but it's fun. Got to support the pod somehow. Or on TikTok, even though I deleted it off my phone, I have not uploaded a TikTok in such a long time.
You can also join us soon, probably
Next week, I
next
don't know.
week, for The Lathe of Heaven by Ursula K. Le Guin. We'll be talking about that. And then we wanted to get this Last of Us episode up soon. So we pushed the Sweet Smell of Success episode. That'll be coming out after The Lathe of Heaven.
Yes, and perhaps Emma will join us on a future episode. This is not the last you've seen of Emma.
Maybe, perhaps.
Perhaps.
think-
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, totally. But and on that note, goodbye, Prometheus.